Looks like a light crowd today.
See this? Very light.
You like it or not, you got me.
Control.
Ernie's bugged out for Freedom Festival or something. What is it, Flagstaff, you said?
Jackalope Flagstaff.
So, we'll muddle through here and have some fun today. We have Sarah Sandy as our main speaker, and we'll get to her in a few minutes. I'm sure Alan will have a few good words. He always does. Good, bad, or otherwise, whatever they are. I'm a man of few words, so I can't stand up here like Ernie does and talk for 2 hours without stopping.
Nobody.
Tell us why, Frank. Tell us why.
I got a bad education, you know.
Okay. And?
And what? I don't know what.
Well, tell us why you can't stand up there and speak for a couple hours.
Well, legs are too weak. They won't hold all the weight. Anyway, to start this thing off, I'm going to do a little bit different than we normally do. We sit out here, you guys sit in your derrieres and couch commando and listen to what's going on and never open your big fat mouth. So today I'm going to give you the chance to sit here and we'll have an interchange of ideas. How about that?
Okay. Are we going to sing?
You want to sing?
After the last
It's pretty bad, you
I
know.
know it's pretty bad, but like we're going to sing to sing.
All right, let's sing. We got to sing. Let's get acquainted. You really? Well, no, let's get it. It's not good. Okay. It's time to get acquainted. It's time to say hello. Who's standing close beside you? And to smile and say hello. Goodbye, lonesome feeling. Goodbye, glassy stare. Here's my hand. My name is. Now put that right there. My wife says if we go to church, don't you dare sing. Now you know why. I think we ought to sing God Bless America. How about that?
All right.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Hey, you guys are better than normal. My thing I do, besides the Breakfast Club is one of the, not the highest priority I have. Involved with the program with Mesa Community College. Some of you know this, some of you don't. For seniors, it's called Lifelong Learning. We call it New Frontiers. It's for seniors, sponsored by Mesa Community College. Anybody who don't know, Lifelong Learning is a United Nations program. We don't tell anybody that, but that's what it is. If you've read the Declaration of Human Rights, you'll see in there where they talk about lifelong learning. But anyway, kind of a little aside, they furnish us classroom space that when the credit classes are not using, we can use their classrooms. They furnish a little bit of secretarial stuff, telephone stuff. We can use the copy machines, and we can use a lot of their facilities for social activities. The one thing I do is I facilitate. We don't have teachers, we call them facilitators. And one thing I do is I have 2 classes, one Monday, one Tuesday, for all of every semester. And what we do is sit down and talk. And I show a few videos now and then of training things and so on and so forth, but most of it is a discussion group. And there's groups have got so they won't want to quit. They get all upset because I want to take the summer off, you know. There's a lot of work to get these things done. But the rules we have, very simple. We agree to disagree agreeably, right? That's one of the rules. Another rule is you're entitled to your own opinions, but not your own facts. And some of the other stuff we have is, if you don't challenge my ideas, how can I change my mind? And the rule is, by using bare facts, we come up with the naked truth. So anyway, this is the way we work, and we have a lot of fun. My experience in there shows me that the liberals are afraid to stand up for what they believe. They won't stick around.
Right.
I have a hard time keeping liberals in the class to keep balance. Extremely difficult. I'll have one or two stick around maybe a semester. But I have a lot of conservatives that have been around. I've been doing it for over 10 years. And it's almost all conservative. Anyway, so I thought I'd give you guys a chance this morning. The rule is, if you want to talk, you raise your hand. No filibustering. If you want to filibuster, I'll give you 5 minutes at the microphone. First of all, we'll talk, is there anybody want to make any announcements about projects or stuff that they're into or where you're going or this sort of thing? Yes?
Real quickly, as you know, as of, I believe today is the start of the early voting for the primary season. The Libertarian Party, if you're one of the few people in this room that might be getting a Libertarian primary ballot, we have quite a few Libertarian write-ins that are trying to be on the ballot for the general. So by writing them in the primary, they will be listed on the general election ballot. So please look on the Libertarian Party azlp.org website, and you'll see the names of Libertarian write-in candidates. You're including Thane right here. He's one of the ones. So we need those write-in votes. They don't tell you who the write-ins are. We'll have to tell you that, so you have to go find out.
Thane who?
I'm sorry.
Thane who?
Yeah, I don't know. Thane who? Right over here.
Thane McNamara.
I'll let Thane speak for himself. But so Thane is running for Justice of the Peace in the downtown precinct. So he's got to get about 5 or so write-in votes to be listed on the general election ballot as one of the listed candidates. So he needs 5 Libertarians to write his name in the downtown precinct. Mark Victor, which many of you know of him. He's the Libertarian candidate for U.S. Senator. And again, that would be a name to write in if you get a Libertarian primary ballot. So I would appreciate any assistance with that. If you have any questions, come see me. If you have trouble tracking down those names, I'll help you connect them.
Is Ernie running for anything this time?
Couldn't talk him into it. Trust me, we tried, but he just wouldn't do it. He's too busy with stuff. So it's unfortunate. We were actually thinking about having him be our U.S. Senate candidate. That would have been fun. But Mark Victor is running. Is already running a very, very high visibility campaign. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And again, I think we only need about 100 write-in votes for that. That's statewide, so that shouldn't be that difficult. Again, raise your hand if you're a registered Libertarian. Okay, so this whole message was just for the two of you. Thank you.
Question. Frank?
You want to make any political comments? No political comments. All right.
Frank?
I can speak for my group. I think I'm having problems. I'm with the First Families of Arizona. We are families who came here when it was a territory. And we meet at the Irish Cultural Center on Central. At the first Tuesday of every month, we have a speaker, we have lunch, we have as many as 110 who come, and a lot of people find that when they come, they don't realize that the people they went to high school, here they are, and they haven't seen them in all this time. So it's real fun, and it's on a Tuesday, and the first Tuesday of the month at the Irish Cultural Center, and you can have lunch. It's $8 for lunch. That's optional, and you can just get up and leave. So if anybody wants to come, I think you've been there, haven't you? It's interesting because they give their family history if they want to. The next speaker is going to be a person who's been a school teacher for a number of years, and she's going to be the speaker at the next meeting, which will be the last Tuesday of the month. First Tuesday, well, the last Tuesday of August. Okay, hope to see you there. I think you'll find it fun. What's fun is they'll come and they say, my goodness, I haven't seen you since high school. And so that's what it's fun about. But you're welcome to come.
This gentleman down there at the end there.
Just a quick note, I think Ernie needs to come up with a new sign. Instead of still voting, it should be still running. Since he doesn't vote, he's not running.
Yes, sir, Dennis.
I had a question for either Thane
Yeah.
or Michael.
Stand up and try to face him. It's hard to hear quite
Okay.
easily.
My name's Tom Platt, and I just had a question for Thane and Michael. I understand that there is a new initiative, or new, I don't even know what to call it, something's gonna be on the ballot, I guess.
Proposition.
Louder.
Proposition about top two, exactly. I hear that's pretty bad. Do you understand? We pretty much cut the libertarians out every year.
Yeah.
And can you explain a little bit about it?
Sure.
All I know is it's not good.
If you remember, I think it was either earlier this year or late last year, Ted Downing came and gave a presentation here about what they called at that time the Open Government Initiative. Okay? The Open Government Initiative, we've always said, it's nothing to do with open government. It's a sheep in wolf's clothing, or a wolf in sheep's clothing, whatever it is. It's just completely. They say it's one thing, but it does the opposite. Yeah, here's a what is this? DVD?
DVD from when he was here.
Yeah, here's a DVD when he was here. And Ted is a good guy. I don't fault him for this. I think he's been completely either misled or he's willfully blind to what's wrong with this thing. Well, they called it the Open Government Initiative. Recently, I forget which group it is, but when the Secretary of State finally got around to reviewing it and verifying that it had the proper number of signatures and putting it on the ballot, the Secretary of State or whatever group is assigned to do this looked at it and said, "This is not. You cannot call this the Open Government Initiative. This is completely misleading. We're going to call it Top 2." And that was already right there a big deal. I mean, the people that are calling the Open Government Initiative, they were really upset because they were starting to be unmasked. What it does, in a nutshell, is it basically puts everybody on a level playing field, and that's the big deal that Ted Downing was talking about. Anybody who wants to run for primary will have to meet all the same criteria. And that's great because that's going to actually make it a little bit easier for Republicans, it's going to make it a little bit easier for Democrats. It's going to make it probably a little bit easier for true independents, but everybody else, all those small parties, the Greens, the Libertarians, the Constitution Party, everybody else gets screwed in that process because the Libertarians have these kinds of requirements now that are proportionate to our membership, but once this Open Government Initiative, this Top 2 passes, we'll have to meet the same requirements as the Republicans, the Democrats, and the Independents. Okay, one-third, approximately of the registered voters. That's going to make it tougher right there. But all right, that's going to make everybody put everybody on equal footing, supposedly. Then, regardless of party affiliation or party designation, whoever the two top voters are primary, those are the people that are going to be listed in the general. So there's only going to be 2 people listed, regardless of how many candidates entered, how many different parties there are listed. Oh, and if they happen to be from the same party, yeah, that's one too. So this somehow opens it up. This is why it's completely misleading when they call it Open Government Initiative. What it is the Incumbent Protection Act. Okay, it helps to establish political parties, and it helps make sure that those that already have a significant source of support, of structured, organized support, are going to continue to have access to the ballot, and they're going to be listed on the general election ballot. And everybody else is left behind with, again, as is typical for government, with the idea that, oh, but, it's open, everybody has access, right? Like they tell you, oh, that's too bad, but, you could have voted for it or against it, so, too bad, you're stuck with it. It's the same idea that they pretend that it's participatory, but in fact it's structured in a way that essentially determines the outcome for you, predetermines the outcome,
Yes.
long before anybody even steps into the primary election. Right? Just imagine if that were to pass our next gubernatorial, race. Okay, you're going to have a very conservative Republican. You're going to have a little bit of a middle of the road Republican. You're going to have a very liberal Democrat. You're going to have a middle of the road Democrat. At the end of the day, you're going to have two people that are going to be on the general election ballot. There's not going to be Libertarian. Libertarian's not going to get close. There's not going to be a Green. There's not going to be an Independent. You're probably going to have a choice between one Republican or another, because the two people with the numerically highest votes are the ones that are going to advance. How does that open it up? That's just, it doesn't make any sense. In a very conservative district, you're going to always have two Republicans as your choice in the general election. In a I guess in Arizona, there probably aren't any very liberal districts, but in a somewhat liberal district, you're going to have two Democrats, and that's it. The whole thing is just such a, again, I don't know if I've explained it.
Yeah,
I'm certainly opposed to it. I don't know if that was
I'm involved with my legislative district, and actually the legislative district, the Republican legislature, they're big time against it.
Yeah.
You would think they would be for it, but they are actually against it, which I thought.
Well, they're against it because they know that overall what it does is it protects a few big name politicians, but it really is going to damage the access that somebody that is got a lot more grassroots support, that they will, it's going to hurt their ability to be able to even get in the race, in the real race. The real race is not in the primary in many cases. In some cases it is. The real race is at the general. And that's what it does, is it dramatically reduces the number of choices you have for the general election, and then they call it the Open Government Initiative. I mean, what a bunch of crooks.
Did it make the ballot?
Yes.
The propositions approved? Do you
It's
know
going
the
to be
number?
on the ballot, and it's going to be listed as top two.
Do you know the number, proposition number?
I don't know. I don't know that that's
They've
been.
numbered it yet, for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know. There's also some legal challenges. I think, was there a legal challenge filed? I don't
That's
remember.
what I saw.
So then it's not absolutely on there.
Well, I mean, I'm told, unless a judge says take it off, because there's challenges to it because, again, in Arizona, the initiatives, it's an initiative, I think. The initiative requires that it have its own source of funding and be revenue neutral. This one isn't. They claim it's going to save a lot of money, but in fact, again, according to the analysis by the Arizona Legislative Council, it's going to cost somewhere between $1 million and $2 million, and there's no designated source of funds for that, so it can be challenged on that
So it
basis.
could be defeated before it comes up for a vote.
It very well may be, and there's a lot of people that are gunning for it because it will be so damaging to our present system. And
There's some things in principle that I don't get on this. The whole idea of parties is not embedded in our Constitution or in our framework. Parties are an artificial construct. So this takes away, in theory, the party idea. This is populist. This is how many people want guy A, how many people want guy B, and it doesn't matter what party you're in. Isn't that something we would want?
But they do use the party. I can't follow everybody by name, so tell me a Republican, I mean that way.
Yeah, but
Whoever
that's
it
a-
is.
That's a kind of a false flag.
Well, I think there's a lot, no, I think a lot of us are like that. We can't follow every name on the ballot.
Well,
I got my
so let me
primary
answer
ballot.
that. Yes, in theory, that's what they're going for. In implementation, what they've done is they've, in fact, empowered particular factions within the party. They've empowered the primarily the middle of the road. What they've done is they've said, what we really want in politics is we want a bunch of middle of the road people that are willing to compromise with everybody, because we need to advance, the policies of government.
So if it was
So
the
it's-
top 6 vote getters, would that be better?
Now you're asking a question about the structure of the system overall, and I agree with you that the whole theory of giving parties a place at the table seems to be, an automatic place at the table seems to be flawed in itself, and that may be true, but this doesn't fix it. This sort of, in the name of fixing it, makes a lot of things worse. Now, potentially, after 5 or 10 years of this, everybody will arrange themselves around this and it might get better. But what you really will end up seeing is either people running and that are libertarians saying, well, we're really, I'm running as a Republican or I'm running as a Democrat, because they can't get, there's no chance they're going to get to the general election running as a libertarian or as a Green or as a Constitution Party. So all you're really doing, and this is probably why some of the parties are not happy with it, because what they're seeing is that people are going to be claiming a label just with the chance to be able to get through that. Again, Alan, to your question, I think that there are ways to do it that reduces the power of the parties. I don't think this was one of those ways. And especially in the short term, it's going to dramatically increase the power of certain factions within each of the 2 big parties, and everybody else is going to get marginalized. And that was really the thrust of it. That was the reason that Terry Goddard and Ted Downing and some of those guys got together and did this. It's because what they were saying is, wait a second, we've got these very liberal Democrats, but that wasn't really their concern. What they were saying is that we've got these super conservative Republicans that are running in these primary elections and appealing to the right, and they're the ones getting through the primary, and then they become the Republican candidate, whereas most Republicans that go to vote in the general election really didn't want the really conservative one, they wanted the slightly less conservative. I mean, this is what they were doing. They were gaming the system through this process because they didn't like the Russell Pierces of the world. And regardless of what you think about Russell Pierce, this is what this is directly aimed at, is getting rid of the super conservatives that are getting through to the legislature and those places. But again, it's so flawed.
Norm Nippers. I'm not familiar with all the processes, but I registered as a Republican because of Ron Paul.
Yeah.
Now, if I like say Mark Victor, I want him to be, and I'm at the primary for the Republican. It's not going to do him any good me writing his name in.
No, but it'd be interesting. He's not gonna hurt anybody else either. You might as well do it, and then
somebody's going to read it. But I just like to make a general comment perspective. The whole problem is this country is a constitutional republic, and we're moving toward more mob rule, democracy. Everybody loves democracy, and it sounds like a good word.
Democracy is no way to run a civilized society.
And that's why we're really putting a big focus on voting, on democracy, and we're forgetting about the fact that we're a constitutional republic. And it's just mob rule. And this is all this thing with the open government, we're just trying to reinvent more mob rule.
Well, we're not.
Well, yeah.
The government people.
Again, the difference between a democracy and a republic is very simple. In a republic, there are certain things that are simply not on the table. They cannot be touched, untouchable. In a democracy, everything is on the table. Right? If the majority wants it, they get it. If the majority wants to lock up another portion of the population, sure, why not? It's a democracy. The majority wants to tax one side of one part of the population, not another, sure, why not? In a republic, certain subjects are off the table. The problem is that the people that decide what things are off the table have been deciding against a republic. for 12 years now. You know, they have consistently been deciding that, well, yeah, this has been redlined as you cannot touch this, but what they really meant, you know, talking about, for example, one of the ones that gets me all the time is there's an Arizona constitutional provision and the U.S. constitutional provision that says in all criminal trials you shall have a jury trial. And then you've got an Arizona Supreme Court decision that says, or I don't know, some Supreme Court decision that says, well, when they said all criminal trials, what they really didn't mean was all. They meant something else. And let's explain to you what we really meant. I mean, it's just, you know, it's insane when they take a word like all and say, well, they didn't really mean all, they meant some. You know, and when you have that, you know, you've got, I don't know, democracy or something else. You've got the idea that a republic is protected only by to the extent that people are willing to know and understand and stand up for it. And you've got the people that are in charge of guarding the rights. They're saying, well,
Living
they
and
said
breathing.
all, they really meant some. Let us tell you what they meant.
We need more time to discuss this.
Yes. Well, and again, but this is another example. I think that was the point. This is another example of that. People are saying, well, the system is broken, so let's fix it by breaking it even more and making it even more impossible for libertarians or Greens or anybody that is going to stand up and say the unpopular thing. Because that's what ultimately comes down to. Say the unpopular thing, be excluded from the election. Let's not hear from them because it just confuses it. We just want mainstream candidate A with brand A and mainstream candidate B with brand B. Those are the ones we want to pick from. We want boot in your neck left leg versus boot in your neck right leg. Those are the choices that we have, and those are the only ones we want to present to the people. And that's what it comes down to. That's why this is so faulty, because where's the guy that's going to say, wait a second, can I vote for no boot on your neck? Can we have that? That's going to be excluded with
Put a
this.
boot on that guy's neck.
Yeah.
I'd argue it's not even mainstream. I'd argue that it's whoever they want.
Yes,
It's
predetermined.
They might, and that's
When
what
I, when I say mainstream, I'm talking about the, you know, basically appealing
Power
to the
elite.
vast, unwashed masses who say, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Why don't we raise the sales tax? Because of course the government is not going to spend, and it's only temporary, right? And now they're already talking about making that permanent again.
Right.
I mean, really, where do we stop? When are they going to stop ratcheting up this?
Well, that's why
spending
I
tax?
think all these initiatives are just, George Carlin said it best. You know?
Gentleman back here, well, yeah. You.
I was just, I'm not sure they heard what you said. You and I are thinking the same way. We're not sure what we think even counts. We think that it's all determined by the people at the top of the power thing, that they brainwash us through the news media. I'm watching the Jeff Flake and that other Republican ads. Where are they getting all this money? I mean, 4 spots and 1 30-minute news broadcast a night? My God, it's not our choice. We're being told who to vote for. I think that's,
Well,
we
you
don't
know,
even get the pick.
I think if you want them to spend less money on campaigning, then you should vote for top 2 because there'll be a lot less money spent on campaigning.
I like open 6, 10.
Because your choices will be much narrowed and they won't have to spend nearly as much money on
And I think
campaigning.
it's slid by again. I'm saying is, I don't think what we want is even counting. I think some elite people at the top are telling us who we want.
Yeah, and again, you know,
Well,
yeah, if you want to review the DVD, Ted Downing was asked some of that stuff, and he's like, no. But look, the bottom line is whether he's willfully lying to us, willfully ignorant about what this really is going to do, or he's part of some conspiracy. I don't know. I don't really care. I think he's a nice guy. But this is just a huge. This is going to be. This is going to severely reduce the choices that you have, and it's going to, more importantly, for us libertarians who run, it's going to severely reduce the access that we have to be able to stand up and say, wait a second, can we just not even think about this? Can we just, completely different alternative? Between the choice of a 7% tax and 8% tax, can we just say no tax? Is that okay? Are we allowed to say that? So that's what it's doing. It's going to cut out that voice that's going to argue for truly fundamental constitutional rights protective kind of policies. And it's going to limit it to the choice between the candidate that wants a 7% tax and the guy that wants an 8% tax, or a 17% or 18%, or 27 or 28%. Those are the choices when Prop 2 passes. So, you know, I hope you're better informed. It is just, like I said, I think it's appropriate to call it a sheep and wolf's clothing. So.
A wolf in sheep's clothing.
No. Sheep and wolf's clothing.
Yes, sir.
Because if you look at it, you know that it's nasty, but, you know, they say, well, really, at the heart of it, it's really just, you know, it's better for the people, but it's not. It is really what it is.
This gentleman down here.
Yes, this is my first visit to your club here, and I want to just say that this is fantastic. I was born and raised in Arizona. I've always been a conservative, and I'm just amazed at this. I'll be attending your meetings from now on. I'm the Reverend Green, and as you can see by my T-shirt, I'm here to help support Sarah, your guest speaker today.
Okay. Yeah, Sarah's ready to go. It looks like she's back there having a cup of coffee or something. Are you ready?
Yeah, we're
Okay.
gonna get to the YouTube thing.
Alan wants to do a quick announcement. Quick, what's quick?
Frank got a question back there.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna come up and mention something here. In the spirit of mobocracy. I want to see if anybody remembers. I want to see
Everybody here?
It's not on.
It's not on. Okay. No, that's all right. I'll just talk louder. I want to ask a question of everybody. Who was it that said Americans are just going to have to give up a little more liberty?
Wolfowitz?
No, what's her name? The head of the,
Obama?
Nancy Pelosi?
Nancy Pelosi.
FDR.
Obama?
Was right after 9/11.
Cicero.
Thanks.
John Kyle.
No way.
That was his immediate reaction after 9/11, after the Carlyle Group took down the
Twin Towers. That Americans are just going to have to give up a little liberty.
Yep.
And the only reason I'm mentioning this is because
I'm seeing a lot of commercials where John Kyle is promoting this guy.
Yeah.
John Kyle is promoting that guy.
Because guess what?
This guy is the guy that I support. So keep this in mind if you still participate in
The consent.
that whoever you're voting for, or whoever John Kyle is supporting, supports, or the flame, supports Americans giving up a little more liberty.
And this is not to say that I'm supporting the other fool. Okay? Because
I just don't consent anymore.
I think we have a true microphone problem here. Don't worry about it.
We had a whole bunch of new gun laws go into effect on August 2nd. I got copies of them here. Anybody want one?
Yes.
Yeah.
These are cut a little bit cockeyed. One of the letters is cut off. You'll be able to read it. The cleanly cut copies are going to paying customers. You guys get them free. You'll be able to read them. The only really significant one, I mean, they're all significant, but the most significant one is that localities can no longer destroy guns that they collect or confiscate or find or turned in. They have to sell them back to the public. This is a major step forward. They can't take public property and destroy it. That was done by the Arizona Citizens Defense League. Join them if you're not members, azcdl.org. You guys know them. They're a great group. I'll get to that in a second. And one quick note about the UN Arms Treaty. You all heard that the UN Arms Treaty failed, right?
All right.
Temporarily.
It did not fail.
Temporarily.
It did not fail. It succeeded. It succeeded.
Why?
This is how these things are done. They came out with a draft. I have the draft. You can find it. They have policies, procedures. They went through the whole thing. They know what the pro-rights people think. They know what the anti-rights people think. They got terminology. They know where this is headed. And it all comes down to keeping guns out of the hands of people who are unauthorized users.
Us.
What is an unauthorized user? What is an authorized user? Is anybody in here an authorized user of firearms?
Law enforcement.
Show me your papers. Where's an authorized user? It's undefined. You can't transfer a firearm to an unauthorized user. What is a transfer? It is undefined. And how are the anti-rights people going to respond? Well, they don't like this treaty because it doesn't go far enough, and we know where it doesn't go far enough. It was a great first step. They will be back. This is the first draft, and it was not a failure. It moved us ahead, and we'll be moving further in this direction, probably take about a year. I'll be quiet because she has been sitting there patiently listening to poor Michael Kielski repeat himself over and over until I wanted to go out and get food.
Can we fix the microphone for Sarah? Can we get that working, please?
1, 2. Probably
Wiggle
not.
the cord.
I'd like you to.
Wiggle the cord a little bit.
Yeah, I'm wiggling and fixing and
I
whatever.
can talk, I'll try to talk loud.
She's going to talk loud, and I will be right back in.
My name is Sarah Sandy, and today I have a shirt on, and my shirt on the back, it says, "Attention judges, prosecutors, and CPS." And CPS stands for Child Protective Services. And on the bottom it says, "Children are not currency for federal funding." And on the front, it has a picture of my daughter, and it says, "Do not use me." My daughter was taken 3 weeks ago now, July 16th, from the hospital when I gave birth to her. And 6 hours after I gave birth to her, a CPS, Child Protective Service, social worker came in, and she had a paper of my rights, and on top of it, it said neglect. And she asked me to sign it. And I told her that I'm not going to sign that paper. I didn't understand why she was saying that I neglected my daughter. I was nursing her and taking care of her. And I videotaped this meeting I had with her, which she did not like and argued with me about for 15 minutes, and I could not tape her. And she went to go do her investigation, and the next day, July 17th, the hospital had thrown me out. At 9 p.m. at night, they came into my room and they told me that I'm being discharged and it's time for me to go home. And I asked them if they had the discharge papers from the doctor, and they did not have them. And then I asked them to call my doctor, and they would not. Then they called the Scottsdale Police Department, and Officers Mitchell and Officers Fay responded, and they came out and told me I had to leave the hospital without my baby. And I said, okay, can I see the paperwork that Child Protective Services has seized my baby, like has custody rights, my baby. And they did not have paperwork. They did not go to judge. They did not do an investigation. They did not have any order to hold my baby. And so then the Scottsdale Police Department gave me an option to leave the hospital or to go to jail. I've never been to jail before. And I left the hospital in my robe. I was not allowed to get dressed. My robe was a nursing robe. It was open in the front, open in the back. I left the hospital and had to find a ride home. Then that was on a weekend. So Sunday now was the 18th, and that is when Child Protective Services had made their order to take my daughter into custody. No judge, just a unlicensed social worker made this order on the 18th. So my daughter was illegally kept from, basically she was kidnapped because she was illegally taken from me.
Yes.
So then I went to the courthouse because this was illegal, and I filed a habeas corpus, which is return her to me immediately because she was wrongfully removed. And if anybody wants to read this, they can, but it does have your constitutional rights on it that were violated, my constitutional rights on it that were violated. They did not get a search and seizure. There was no warrant. Nobody had a right to take that child. In this court, they denied it because it now goes to juvenile dependency court because there's a child. And the juvenile court system does not recognize any constitutional rights at all. There is none. You do not get due process. You do not get, it's all hearsay. So the unlicensed social worker with CPS could go in there and say whatever she wants, and that remains fact in that courtroom. And the Attorney General from Tom Horn's office will support her and back her up 100%. And I did call Tom Horn to let him know about this whole thing, and he doesn't want anything to do with it. So then I went and made a complaint because it's a criminal act. And I went and turned it into Bill Montgomery's office. And he immediately looked into it. He has an investigator on it that's been efficient and actually taking it very seriously. Because now, child abuse is a crime. And my daughter is being abused. She's been taken away from her mother, deprived her rights to her family, and not allowed to nurse anymore. Anyway, I had brought with me these pictures. This is my daughter before she was taken with me at the hospital. You can see her peace in her face. She had a very peaceful face. She was a very healthy baby. She was not born on drugs. She was a 9 on the ABGAR, very bright. This is her 5 minutes after she was born. She came to me and was looking at me for about 20 minutes, her big eyes staring at me while I talked. And this is her after she was taken. She's very distraught now at 3 weeks old. I was allowed to see her finally. And she came to the visit with a pacifier that had been chewed up by either a dog or another child, because my daughter doesn't have teeth. And her car seat was filthy dirty. It had expired in 2008. And this is what CPS, Child Protective Services, is now supplying my daughter with. Her diaper bag is a bag that was dirty as well. It's a used diaper bag. It had another child's name on it, and it was crossed off. And my daughter, when she was taken, was not named on a birth certificate yet. So they call her no name Sandy. Her name is Ruby, and I've told them that. This is the CPS worker, and this picture's kind of hard to see that took my daughter. This woman, in this picture, has a low-cut t-shirt. This is the unlicensed social worker. Her name is Lorraine Reed. She has cigarettes in her cleavage that were falling out over my daughter. So I got the opportunity to take that picture because it was so unreal to me. My daughter was placed in a foster home with 5 other children. And the woman that fosters these children just got out of a surgery. She's unable to care for Ruby, and this is what Ruby's attorney had said. So she places Ruby in full-time daycare. She went there since 3 days old. Since 6/1/2012, between this time of 6/1/2012, which is June, to July 23rd, 2012, 16 children have died in the hands of CPS this year. These are these children that CPS was supposed to protect. I finally did go to court, and the judge decided to take Ruby into temporary custody because she felt that was the best placement. I have everything brand new for Ruby. Brand new car seat, brand new clothes, diapers. There was no neglect. I don't have a criminal history. I offered for like a hostage situation, I told them I will do whatever they want. I will drug test, I'll go to counseling. All these services they ask people to do, I will do that, but please let me have my daughter safe because I'm worried about her now. I also pulled out, and while they take Ruby into custody this year, she's going to cost taxpayers $240,000 in the care of Arizona Child Protective Service custody. Makes $1,500 for each one of these children in her home a month. And she provides that car seat and the pacifier and that diaper bag just reused. It's just, now Ruby has become income for her. There's also all these laws out there. There's an adoption incentive that counties get when they take children and they adopt them out. It is a danger to children because it generates money for the government. And so when I go to court, it's not about really if I'm a good mother. It's about if my child is adoptable. And I know this from previous from experience with CPS. I've been speaking on behalf of parents involved with CPS since 2009. And they are all aware of who I am. Here is something I pulled online. This foster family has taken in over 160 kids in the past 28 years. 160 kids went through their home, and they say, we wonder how they are now. Those children needed to know a sense of belonging, to know they were loved. These children go through 9 foster homes, 10 foster homes, then to group homes, and during that time, the parents that lost them they do not allow them to reunify with them. Even though they go through a long address reunification plan that costs taxpayers billions of dollars, they never are reunified. And they lose those children. And the children grow up thinking that they were unloved and that they don't know who they are. And there's so many, these foster homes are full of abuse. And I don't know how a woman that has surgery on bed rest could take care of 5 children, especially with a newborn. So that's about the treatment they're getting. This is all 2012 facts I pulled up, and I pulled it up from ArizonaCentral.com news articles. And another thing that I pulled up was Arizona courts are overloaded with CPS cases. And rights are being terminated. Now, the more time passes, the more likely children will be terminated or traumatized by their experience with child welfare system. Meaning it's so overcrowded that now it's a hurry, like they rush you in. They try to rush me in and just say we're taking Ruby, and then they throw you out. They don't even give you 5 minutes of their time. I don't know how to. The print's so little. I was gonna actually pass them out. I can't really read this well. But anyway, I'm gonna show you this YouTube so then you can get it better.
Where's Ruby now?
Ruby right now is in foster care with that lady.
And why did they target you to start with? Because I don't think they just randomly do that, do they?
You know what? They do randomly do that. And okay, when I gave birth to Ruby at Scottsdale Healthcare, the man next to me had a baby. They were occupiers and they lived in a tent. And they loved they were big activists. And the baby was born on marijuana. And they gave birth the same time I did. Their baby went home. I have a nice, I could provide everything for Ruby. There's no drugs, no criminal history, and my baby was taken.
Where do you live?
I live in Newport and I came out here visiting.
So you're
So
saying.
where do you live?
Newport Beach, California.
So where do you live? You were
Oh.
gave birth in Scottsdale. Where do you live?
Well, I was visiting my friend and my water broke. So we went to Scottsdale Hospital.
So you're living with a friend here?
I was
visiting.
staying with a friend here, yes.
So are you saying that the child protective service lady just drops in off the street and you're the next victim? That's the approach?
I don't, you know, if
6 hours later and she's got your baby, that's.
Right, they called her in. I
Who's
can't,
they?
Who's they?
the hospital.
Why did they
You
call her
had
in?
somebody in the Occupy movement who gave birth in a tent?
No. While I was at the hospital, in the room next to me, there was a child born on positive for marijuana. Their parents were occupiers, and the hospital never called CPS for them.
Good.
No, thank you.
I'm just giving you some moral support.
And also,
And the woman, and they, whoever they is, called in some person who saw a marijuana baby with people living in a tent and said, you can stay, and saw you living in a home with a friend and said, we're taking your baby just out of the blue.
right.
What was their
That
excuse?
doesn't add up.
Why?
Okay, they came in for neglect. There was no,
I need to interject, Sarah.
there was, no abuse. There was no abuse.
But what are they thinking? What are they saying?
I don't have paperwork. I've been to court. I have all my paperwork. I've been to court.
So you have no idea, you really have no idea.
No, unless they know that I stand up for families of CPS, I don't know.
You didn't call for the police and say, help, they're taking my baby?
The police were there and they helped take the baby, which is illegal.
Could it?
On the record, I know Sarah doesn't want me to say anything, but I was there when they tried to take Sarah's baby. In fact, the police came, took me away and filed a complaint against me for trespassing. I was in Scottsdale Hospital. I was holding Sarah's baby, Ruby. I was feeding the baby at the time when the staff from the hospital rushed in. They used an excuse because Sarah wanted to keep the baby with her. They said the doctor needs to see her in the nursery. Sarah did not want anyone to be with the baby because they had upset her, the hospital had. So I was in there. Sarah needed to take a break. She went out for a phone call outside the room. I was sitting there holding and feeding her baby, Ruby. 4 nurses came in and a security officer came in. They said, again, the doctor needs to see the baby in the nursery. I said, Sarah doesn't want the baby in the nursery. I said, if you want to talk to Sarah, get Sarah in here. Then they said, give us the baby. We want the baby now. And then they said, I said, I cannot get Sarah. And they would not go out and get Sarah. Then they said, you do not have a wrist bracelet on. Anybody in the maternity ward has to have a wrist bracelet.
Like this.
And I said, well, I've been here all day. I'm her minister. I'm the baby's minister. And I had met earlier in the day with the risk manager for the hospital, with the administrative manager for the hospital, the nursing manager, and also the nurse in charge of Sarah. And all of us had a meeting in Sarah's room about the problems, why the police were called, why was CPS called. And they could give no explanation whatsoever, but they received an anonymous call saying that Sarah and her baby were in danger. That then entitles the hospital and makes them responsible so that they have to call the police and call CPS. But there was no reason. Sarah and her baby were not in danger. So now I'm sitting there holding Sarah's baby. They've rushed in, they've demanded the baby. They say, where's your bracelet? And I say, I'm the minister. I've been here all day. No one has told me that I have to have a bracelet. None of Sarah's friends had a bracelet. They said, I said to them, give me a bracelet. And they said, no, we're not going to give you one. We're calling the police right now, and we're going to have you arrested. I said, get Sarah, have her come in, and I'll give her the. And these women were surrounding me. I was sitting in a chair. They were hounding me, demanding that I give Ruby over to her physically. And I said, no, I'm her minister. I'm Sarah's minister, and I'm Ruby's minister. You will not take this baby from me. I will give it back to Sarah. But Sarah finally comes in. They finally get Sarah. I hand the baby over to Sarah. The security guard then comes, a woman comes immediately over to Sarah and tries to grab the baby out of her hands as she's sitting on her hospital bed.
Excuse me.
I put myself.
Excuse me. I'd like to ask a question.
Yes.
Man,
No, can you please sit down? I can finish this.
No.
Yeah.
Please sit down.
Well, that's fine. You keep repeating the same thing, and the main thing that, I mean, I can leave. What's your last name?
Sandy,
Okay, Sarah Sandy.
please sit down.
It's Sarah Sandy, right?
Please sit down.
Sarah
Yes,
Sandy?
sorry.
Okay, because when it comes up in the news and stuff, or if it does, or I hear about it, I'd like to be able to, oh, this is who we were talking to. Sarah
Kevin
Sandy.
Kennedy has been following the story.
Who had?
Kevin Kennedy with the Channel 12 News.
Kevin Kennedy?
Yes, the Channel 12 News. Since the
Okay.
beginning. I have given him all the audio.
But here's my other question to the Reverend. One is, how is it that he's your Reverend when you're just visiting? That's the one question. The other one, the big elephant in the room is who in the hospital called saying that the baby was neglected, and what was their rationale?
I'm here, it's not my reverend,
Well,
and he keeps saying it's my reverend.
she's very upset. She's not trusting of people right now. I
want to talk to
I
her.
know, but you're very interruptive.
No, you repeated yourself like 3
You need to go
times.
step outside.
You repeated like you're repeating yourself 3 times about how you were in the room, and now she's saying you're not her Reverend. I'm talking to her. I mean, I can leave right now. I'll be happy to leave right now. I really.
Sarah God has asked me to intervene.
Go step outside.
If you want to talk to me afterwards, any of you, I'll be outside.
You should stay here. This is more interesting. We
Yeah.
want to hear
I can
facts.
tell you the reason why they're after Sarah's baby,
Please.
if you want me to.
What is the reason?
Okay, the reason is, again, this is according to Sarah. Sarah had trouble during her birth. Okay, they call it a code blue or whatever they call it. They got her friends out who were videotaping the birth. Apparently, again, according to Sarah, she had.
Which I was going to get to this.
Well, I'm trying to put it in sequence so we can do this. She had an epidural, and apparently it went bad. The baby's heartbeat went down to about 60 instead of 100 and whatever it's supposed to be. They called this code blue. Her friends were exited, and the nurses and the doctors descended upon her. Okay?
But that happens, doesn't it? I mean, I'm
Yeah, it does happen.
Yeah, okay.
It was, you know what, it happened, they gave me an epidural, they accidentally overdosed me with whatever they put in the epidural, the medicines, and the baby's heart rate went really low. And it did cause a big rush of nurses and everything like that. And it didn't matter. When the baby was born, none of that mattered, because the baby was so beautiful and all that's forgotten.
Right.
Maybe, though they thought maybe like I would sue them, I would never sue. The baby was fine and healthy, so everything worked out just fine.
How many friends were in the room videotaping this?
There were 3 people there at the time of birth.
And these are the friends you were staying with?
Well, I grew up in Scottsdale, Arizona, so I had other friends as well there.
Okay, so you had 3 friends with you. Who's the father?
I don't name him right now because of the CPS.
You know who he is?
Yes, I do.
Was he here?
No, he was not.
Are you in a good relationship with him?
Yes, I am.
But after the baby was born fine and everything was looking okay, what was the reason for getting the authorities involved?
What the hospital called?
We do not, you know what? Nobody has given me any answer. I have a lot of videoage, and I have the nurses saying, I don't know, all I see is a mom taking good care of her baby. And that was the nurse, Jennifer Cornelius, that was my nurse at that time, and could not answer those questions for me as well. Nobody could give me any answers.
So an anonymous phone caller said something's wrong, and that brought the police?
Right.
And who is the reverend who says he's your reverend?
He's our friend, and he has taken it upon himself to call him my reverend.
What kind of reverend are you?
I am the minister. I'm an ordained minister for the last 2.5 years with the Universal Life Healing Ministry. This is a ministry that I've established here in Peoria, Arizona. I'm semi-retired in a sense, 35 years of risk management, and I've decided to go ahead and devote the rest of my life to the ministry.
boy, are you an old school chum of hers that you were?
No,
there?
it was I'm going to say it by chance, meaning nothing is by chance according to God's will. I have a vice of smoking. Sarah does too. We met at a smoke shop. She was very much expecting, and I like to start up a conversation with people.
First of
being a
all,
minister.
my friend Carla was at the smoke shop, and I was outside, and then when he was done, he came outside, we spoke, and he was telling me about his credentials when we were outside. When I gave birth, and the CPS had came, and all the stuff started happening, we started to call people to come and watch over the situation because none of it was making sense. Especially when the room next door to me had a child that was positive for marijuana.
Okay, wait.
Okay.
You met by what we would normally call chance in a smoke shop.
Yes, we did, and we spoke twice during that time. Once
And
inside.
how did you get from the smoke shop to the hospital? Did you want to bring it to the smoke shop?
No. This story is getting way out.
Well, you went from meeting him in a smoke shop to CPS attacking you in a hospital next to a tent with a marijuana baby. I mean, it's no wonder somebody's confused.
Okay, I know, you need to please do not talk.
Sarah called me, and she was under distress because of what was happening at the hospital.
Did you call him from the hospital?
I didn't call him. My friend Carla called him.
Okay, so you have the story wrong on a half a dozen accounts
No, I
according
don't.
to her.
No, I don't.
According to her, you have the story
I
wrong.
do not have the story wrong.
According to her,
I'm
sir,
telling you, I do not have the story wrong.
you don't
arguing, and I want
realize
to
that
be
according to her,
correct.
you have the story wrong.
What is wrong?
According to her.
What is wrong?
What she's saying doesn't match what you're saying.
Tell me which part doesn't match.
Well, if you can't tell, I'm not
Sarah
going to
No,
tell.
if you can't tell
she
me
didn't call
what-
you, her friend called you.
I heard her voice on my recording. In fact, I heard several different
Recording,
voices.
she didn't actually talk to you.
She's in the hospital giving birth.
But
You need to go outside.
No, you
I
guys
think
want
we
one
need child
person
protective
on
services here.
Let Sarah answer right.
It was when I first arrived to Arizona, Carla went to the smoke shop. He was in the smoke shop. I was in there with Carla. And then Carla got his number, and he had mentioned things about being part of government, like involved with like stuff going on with the government. And Carla called him thinking he would have knowledge of what we could do to protect the baby.
Question.
is it possible that there is a group of people that are taking advantage? For instance, they may have gone after your child. I'm just speculating here because you're from out of town, knowing that it would be very hard for you to fight it. Have you ever considered that?
Yes, I did. And people say, well, why would they take your baby if your baby
Because of
was
this money network
healthy?
thing.
Right. Nobody wants to adopt a baby that has marijuana in its system after
For God's sake.
delivery.
No, it's possible. It could be. It's possible. You got to think about it. I know I'm speaking out of turn, but it's possible that because you're out of town, you're an easier mark
Right.
for the whole process, the
Absolutely.
whole money-making machine.
But you were mentioning that since 2009, you're an advocate for parents. What got you involved to start with? Did you have prior children with experience?
Yes, I did. And my paperwork is online.
Well, I don't.
Okay, just so you can see my court stuff, the court, just, you know.
Seeing I have my hand up for quarter walking to ask a question here. You said that there was this phone call to the hospital mentioning some threat. What was the nature of this threat that the baby was under?
Jennifer Cornelius, the nurse at the time, had told me that somebody called the hospital and said I was being held against my will. I do not believe that story. I think that's ludicrous. And,
That you were being held at the hospital against your will?
Correct.
You had just given birth?
Right.
How long ago? Hours?
Hours.
Hours and you were being held against your will?
Correct.
So that doesn't make any sense even to a police officer.
The two police officers that arrived, didn't really make sense to them at the time. They disregarded it, but they should have. I feel like they should have said what's really going on here because something wasn't right.
Well, at that point, they should have asked if the baby's yours.
Yes.
The question my wife just mentioned, you said that you had experience, you knew previously about, you kind of lightly mentioned the fact you had previous experience in CPS.
Right. Correct.
Oh, how many children do you have?
6.
You have 6 children.
Yes.
And how many of them have been taken by CPS at one time or another? Properly or
They
involved?
took 2 into custody, the young ones, and I was pregnant, and when I gave birth to that baby, they had taken her due to lack of my completion of their case plan. It wasn't completely finished.
2 previous children.
Yes.
So this was the third involvement.
Yes, July 1st, 2009, the father of my daughter, not this baby, I moved on. He had, we had a domestic violence altercation where I ended up in a coma for 7 days while I was pregnant, and CPS intervened. And they gave me a case plan, and I did their case plan, and actually completed their case plan.
So this was your 6th child, and you're out of town, and the husband, the father is not around.
The father's in the military.
Okay, but the father's not there with you when you're having your 6th child after 2 CPS incidents, one of which put you in a coma for 7 days. And this a different father than the 7-day coma father?
Yes.
Did you come in to Scottsdale to avoid the problems of having a baby where you were living at?
I did.
Were you trying to avoid CPS? Did you come here to avoid having problems with CPS over there?
You know, I had a very big concern about CPS in California, and I had a lot of different options to get a midwife and have the baby at home, to have the baby in a California hospital, or to go visit my friend who would give me support to have the baby. And the last minute decision was to come to Arizona and be with that friend to have support while I have the baby.
Do you think CPS in California got in touch with CPS in Arizona and said, we have a woman coming here, is that a history?
They may have, but
They got computers, you know.
But the history, there was no abuse to my children in California. My case plan was complete, so
Unless you
there
want
would
to
be no
consider a
reason.
7-day coma while you're pregnant, at least.
Well, yes, no, but not at the hands of me.
Sarah, to myself and I think so many other people that are sitting here, it seems like there's something really missing here, and I think it has to do with your past history with CPS. And could you just please, just in 60 seconds, 90 seconds, from the point of view of California or Arizona CPS, could you please just give us a brief summary of what they would say the reason is that you were attacked in such a way?
I became a thorn in the court side, and this is what the courts consider me in all my paperwork.
They consider you a what?
A thorn in the court side, because I stand by all the other families that had their children wrongfully removed, and I try to make it a law, like hold CPS accountable to their policy, like to follow their policies and procedures. And I'm finding that they're taking children that do not need to be removed.
But in your situation, please, just
That's what
really
they say.
briefly, what
Call
would
me
they
an
say?
activist.
What would they say if I or anybody here were actually to go talk
There's
to
privacy
those
laws
people?
and they're not allowed to tell you.
Let me finish,
That's
sir.
what they'd say.
From Sarah's point,
The kid
from
could
your
be
point of
dead
view,
and they say
Sarah,
that.
what would they say to some investigative reporter as to why this happened to you? Briefly, please.
Because I became an activist, they consider me.
So you were persecuted for your political activism on this issue.
Well, you know, I started standing up for all the families, and they considered that a danger for my kids because I make them public.
And it had nothing to do with the fact that you have these other children who may or may not be having parental supervision at any given time. That's not part of the issue.
Can you repeat that?
The California and Arizona CPS, they don't have an issue with the fact that you have these other children who it appears that sometimes are not getting adequate supervision because you may be out of time or at one time were in a 7-day coma. Isn't it possible that that is part of the issue?
Well, at that time when that happened, yes, that was not a good. They did need to come intervene in my life, CPS.
But aren't they concerned about other times in your life when you think that things are going well, but maybe with the burdens of 5 children already and another one, maybe things won't go so well. Is that possible?
No.
Sarah? You're in a corner, kind of, let me kind of on your side for a second, kind of get you more relaxed yourself. My nephew went through this crap. He had custody for 8 years with his children in Tucson, and the mother was a hooker living on the banks, the Verde River, stuff like that, and she's on welfare, and she's in and out and all that. They go to court over custody quite after he had him for 8 years and was doing fine, and she flunks the drug test. He passes it, and let's just, between you and I, guess who gets custody? Mommy that flunks the drug test. My personal experience, and I'm trying to do this as a human being, I'm not concerned about this stuff, but my experience is Child Protective Services, if you beat the shit out of your kid and break their bones, they ain't got any evidence. But if you discipline them or something like that, oh, you're the meanie, and they strip them. And there seems to be a mindset there that they're going back to 1931 Hitler stuff, I think, where they think the children are property of the state instead of the parents. And as a Christian, the idea is that parents are supposed to raise the child. You're responsible. And the Reverend, let me make a comment here. I think Universalist Church, isn't that the one where you pay $50 or $100 and you got your piece of paper?
I've spent 2.5 years.
No, not how long, but isn't that true? Because I think I was looking at that concept. $50, $100, make me a Universalist minister?
Because there are no credentials for like Catholic priests or any.
No, I'm not talking Catholic, I'm talking
I know
Universalist.
I'm setting up this, okay.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, okay, because I go by the Bible, I take it fairly
I do
serious.
too.
Okay.
Which one?
Right over here, please.
King
All
James,
of them.
actually.
Yes.
Right over here.
Let me, now you're putting me down, I'm sorry, but this is,
No, I'm not putting you
this is
down.
exactly the same way that the police treated me.
Well, I was seriously considering doing it because I thought it was $50 or $100 and call me one. I can't spell it necessarily, but call me one.
Okay, did you go to the juvenile court? Was there a hearing?
Yes, we went to the juvenile court.
Which juvenile court? The one in Mesa or the one in Phoenix?
Phoenix, Durango.
Okay. And you said something earlier about the CPS worker who gets to say anything they want, it's all hearsay.
Correct.
And the judge was sensitive. Can you tell us what the CPS worker was alleging that gave the court pause, gave the court justification for keeping the child out of your control?
She said that I was mentally incapable. And she's unlicensed, and she doesn't have an education or credentials to diagnose my mental health.
I got that. So that was the main allegation, that you're not capable by reason of mental disease or defect of taking care of the child?
No, that hearing was, during 3/4 of that hearing was taken up to question me about another parent in Arizona that I help, and my website where I support parents going through this so they can have positive, to keep positive, to keep straight, to do things right, to
Well,
be
the reason
strong.
I'm asking what I'm asking, I'm an attorney, and I've gone to those kinds of hearings, I know how they go. I'm trying to understand, because the judge is sitting there, and, you know, you could think of them however you want, but the judge is sitting there trying to listen for evidence, at whatever level of credibility, that would justify the agency action. The agency is the CPS, and they've taken an action, and the judge is trying to secure, because if the agency walks in there, the CPS worker walks in there and says, well, she's a political opponent of us, therefore you need to keep the child, most judges wouldn't go with that. Maybe one or two would, but most judges were not going to say, yeah, that's enough, you need to take the child. There's got to have to be something else. You told us one thing just now, that they alleged something about your abilities or your mental state or something like that.
Correct.
Did they allege anything else?
Then they had brought up that I was friends with another parent that had involvement with CPS, and they are in a civil lawsuit right now and a federal lawsuit with the county and the state, and they were bringing up their personal case.
Okay. Did you have an attorney with you or anything?
A court-appointed one.
And what did that attorney do?
Nothing.
But how, if you're having a baby and you live in California, how does the CPS, what's the acronym? CPS, how does CPS even know you're in Arizona? I mean, how you, or do they do, so you're in the hospital, are they doing background checks on everybody who enters the hospital? How do they even know you're an activist? How do they even know, how do they know who you are?
I'm trying to look, I'm trying to get answers myself, and that's why I don't make up like
I mean,
any
if
allegations
your water
of
breaks, you
why
go to
I
the
don't know why.
hospital, you have a kid, and 5 minutes later, a CPS agent is there. I mean, how do they even know all this is even happening?
I don't know. That's why I don't come to a conclusion of why this happened, because I don't have any answers. I have all my court paperwork and no answers to anyone.
I do need to interject because I think that I have the answer to that. When Sarah called me and said that she was in trouble, she was afraid of what was happening at the hospital, I made contact with the risk manager at Scottsdale Hospital at Osborne. I got a meeting with her and the head of the hospital, the head of the nursing, and the actual nurse that was in charge of Sarah. They would not introduce myself. The first thing they asked me was, "Are you an attorney?" Because of the problems with birth. And I said, "No, I'm not. But I have 35 years of risk management experience. I've done policies and procedures for law enforcement agencies. I was a member of the Arizona Association of Chiefs of Police. I was a liaison with what they used to call ALIWAT, which is now Arizona Post. When we all met with Sarah, they said that everything was fine. They got this anonymous call. That's why CPS and the police got involved. Okay, we have no reason, no explanation from anybody yet.
Okay, thank you. When the police, when the police came.
After you went into the hospital, how long was it? Was it a day, 2 days, 5
1
days?
day.
24 hours?
Yes, and when the police were removing me, I asked to call my attorney.
Seems to me like everything revolves around the anonymous call.
If it existed.
The
You
anonymous
could have
call,
fabricated
an
that.
anonymous call, how can?
I believe the
what's the
hospital
answer?
fabricated it to protect themselves.
Me too.
Sarah, where is the baby's father, and what is his position and action on your plight?
I usually do not talk about this, but he does not. This is what I told him. What CPS is going to do if you come forward is they're going to put you through an adverse case plan. You're not going to be allowed
They're going to put you
work.
through a what? I'm sorry.
A huge case plan that's really hard to get through. He's not going to be able to work. They're going to garnish his wages, and he's going to end up on welfare, and it's going to be a mess. So I said, just go stay at work. Don't do the public humility, because there's no, and I just said, focus on yourself. I'll be back.
Does the father not have any rights?
He has right.
But I mean, so why doesn't the father have the right to the baby first as opposed to CPS?
Exactly. He's already been charged with the butt too, for not being there. And they will not let me pick a close friend for the baby to go to, which they're supposed to by law, or a family member. They've chosen to put it in foster care system.
I actually asked CPS, I gave them my personal information.
I would not put my baby there.
Okay,
I told them.
as being a supervisor for her visits, I have yet to have them get back to me.
So what is the agenda of CPS?
They will follow up with the credible people I have.
What is the agenda of CPS? Why does CPS do this? Let's say everything that you're saying is correct, and I believe, let's say I
I'm going
believe
to play the
everything.
YouTube. I'm going to go ahead and do this YouTube video that I created, but there are many online. If you go to YouTube and you Google this, there was a Senator Nancy Schaefer that came out and did her own YouTube and tried to talk about the money incentive that CPS had, and the government allows them
She
to do
just
it.
passed away, didn't she? She just died.
Yes, she did. Okay, so I'm going to let
The YouTube it says it's been taken down.
Oh, they keep pulling it off.
Yeah, it's down.
They keep pulling it off. We got 30,000 views in 2 months, and they keep pulling it off the air.
Your
So they
YouTube?
took it off again.
They took it
I
off again.
wonder why.
And yeah, you know what? They have taken it off many times.
What is your website? You want to give that so everybody will have that?
It's OCCA CPS Corruption. It's on Facebook.
Okay.
Sarah, not to be a jerk or offensive or anything like that, I'm sure you can believe that because of these sort of holes in, or at least things that just aren't coming together, I'm sure you could agree that you're really not the most sympathetic person to be leading the charge in a situation like this. Have you considered temporarily for the benefit of your cause, just sort of backing out and let someone else lead the charge for you?
You know, like, the whole time I was pregnant, I did back out, like, almost completely. I always want to back out. The reason why I have to go forward is now because I got to get her back. You know, and that's why I will be involved in it until they give her back.
And finally, who is taking care of the rest of your children while you're doing this?
Fathers. I have any fathers. I don't have criminal history and I don't have any bad behavior, but I do have several different fathers.
So all of the children are in homes with their fathers?
Yes. Not all of them, but
All but one, all but two,
all three.
all but three?
Oh, I thought she was asking how many fathers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all of the children but one are in homes with their fathers?
Yes.
Okay.
During this whole time, I feel like, you know, I used to be a district manager and I was very involved with my church, which was Calvary Chapel.
Yeah.
And with Chuck Smith.
Chuck
And-
Smith.
Yes, and I know him.
Costa Mesa.
Costa Mesa.
Oh, good.
And,
Bible.
yeah, and I taught, you know, Bible school for the little 5-year-olds. And very involved with the Moms Club. It's an international organization for moms to meet with their kids and do fun activities. And now I've been like the woman's, like the stoned woman or something. I walk around and it's embarrassing and humiliating. It's really, it's a degrading experience, you know. So.
I wish you'd be blessed.
Thank you.
Okay, one more question. Your parents are, obviously, your children are being supported by their fathers, I assume, so that there's no danger of the children going for want. Is that true?
For no danger of them going back to CPS?
No danger of them actually being in a situation where they would not have just the simple basics of life, like food, shelter, clothing, schooling, that kind of stuff.
You know, this is why this story is so hard to tell, because if I don't have my exact proof, I don't even like to talk about it because it's just ridiculous. But in my case with CPS, the father of my daughter Brianna, who's now 2, he has a very long history, criminal history, and Brianna was placed with him. So that's the only daughter I have that I have huge concerns about, and I need to get back to California to help because CPS approved him as the parent, like the good parent, and me as the
Bible study team. Oh no, you're out.
Right. Yeah.
You got it.
So the basic material and social needs are being taken care of for your other children.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, good break point. Thank you very much. Boy, you guys are a tough audience.
You let us talk.
You held up pretty well, I think, don't you?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, books. Anybody got any more in-house?
Got a question over here, Frank.
Yeah.
Frank got a question.
Yeah, gentleman over here.
My name is Jim, and probably like all of you, I know friends that are very liberal and walking through life don't have a clue about what's really going on in our country. And you talk to them, you're blue in the face, and they sit there and go, yeah, but you know they're going no. And I just wanted to point out a couple of things that I've had success with and see if I get any feedback from any of y'all that have had success. One is, I bought 4 copies of the book None Dare Call It Conspiracy by Gary Allen, and that's had an amazing effect on 80% of the people I've loaned it to. And the other one is, I say, have anybody know what Building 7 is? I know y'all do, but I talk to them, Building 7, what the hell are you talking about? Say, Google Building 7, and it's amazing what that starts.
What do the liberals have to do with Building 7?
Liberals and people walking through the earth, walking through life asleep. like I was a year and a half ago.
It was the neocons that did 9/11, for God's sakes. But it's the liberals' fault?
Anyway,
Go ahead, what are points 3 and 4?
That was point, and my question is, has anybody else had any success with any other things that they, because listening to us, that they're going, no. But has anybody else got anything that they've done?
Have you visited the website 911truth.com?
I probably have. I've been to a ton of them.
They're basically architects and engineers that talk about...
Oh, yeah. I've read all that analysis that
Okay.
proves, and, Building 7, they go, Building 7, what the hell is that?
Yeah, they've never heard of
right.
it.
That's where all the controls were to knock down the Twin Towers.
Right.
And that's why they had to knock it down. Anyway, has anybody else had anything like that?
I usually use the Kennedy assassination as a base place.
What do you use for proof?
Just time.
I use it too, but I know why, but
I don't even give it
the proof isn't as obvious as Building 7. That's
No.
pretty obvious.
No, but the time, I don't even use any proof. I just use it as an example because so many people initially took, Oswald did it and everything, but over all these years, so many people that were believing that Oswald did it have come around. Even the most liberal people are beginning to question that maybe...
True.
That's what
But
liberals
I'm
do.
talking
Liberals
about the ones that aren't
question
questioning
things.
anything.
Yeah,
God.
but I'm using that as an example through time to
Okay.
people to come around that there is other things.
Those
that are
people,
happening.
it's easier to get to. I'm talking about the total disbelievers. That jolts them out of their
I think this is an
delays.
I think this is an argument that will never be solved. to be honest.
I'm just saying what seems to be helping in my case. Like 80% of the people I know, none dare call it conspiracy to, are really starting down the road.
And
That's a
that
hell of
ties
a book.
And that ties into CPS how?
Doesn't. They said they do a CPS.
There's also another book called Rule by Conspiracy. It's about 10 years old. If you can get a copy of it, it's fantastic. It talks about follow the money. The people behind all of what's happening politically are the ones that have the money. The Federal Reserve Bank is not federal. It has nothing to do with our government. It is owned by the people that have money.
Of course.
Book, Rule by Conspiracy.
Got it. Okay.
But
I'm a
just to
believer.
break this thing off, and it's time for us to end it off. My philosophy in all of these things that how things work in the world, the best training film available, video, Wizard of Oz. That is exactly the way the world works.
Yeah.
That's the best parody I can believe. You want to know how the world works? Watch the Wizard of Oz. I can look at Ruth over here and I say, okay, what part of the Wizard of Oz is she associated with?
You mean the real
Ruth's a
original film?
Beautiful lady,
Wizard of Oz?
very nice.
One, yeah.
She's the lady, right? We can look at this gentleman right here. He's probably the Tin Man, right? How about this guy here? How about he's probably the closest association.
See that one?
And then for the rest, you can go to 1884 as a graduate degree in world operation, or you can go to Animal Farm, and they all work. It's absolutely obvious. The thing you need to look for every time is the man behind the curtain. Look for the man behind the curtain. In these classes I put on, I quite often get hit. All right, so it's conspiracy. Who's the conspirators? They want names. Well, probably George Soros right now is the only name I can think of. I can put a name.
What about the Koch brothers? Some other
Yeah,
people on the
Koch
right.
brothers.
Good God, George Soros. Bit player.
I read a book not too long ago that said there's 6,000 of them. And how do you tell? They're the guys that fly in the jets between committee meetings and boards of directors. They're the guys that go to Gava in Switzerland. Mm-hmm. They're the guys that go to the Bilderberger convention. Yes. They're the guys that goes to the Aspen convention. I can remember that place in California every year where they have
Bohemian Grove.
What is it?
Bohemian Grove.
Bohemian Grove, right.
Nelson Rockefeller
If the
built
guys
that.
that go there, you know, you want names, find out what they are, that's who they are.
That's it.
That's the way the world works. Think of the Wizard of Oz. Okay, we got some books and nobody else had anything profound to go on. We had fun today?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. 3053.
Oh, man.
3053. First chance of the book back there in the corner. Ooh, 3052.
What do you got, 5'4"?
5'4". I got
This young
5'4".
lady
Going the wrong way,
behind you,
Frank.
she closed her eyes. I saw her do it. 3059.
Oh. What is this 5?
3059.
Well, gotta be here to win.
3059.
Going twice. Going 3 times. Pick another one, Frank. Uh-oh. Hold on, Richie may have it. Richie may have it.
3059.
Yeah. 5-6 is here.
You know what? It was
Because I'm 5'8", it was on
okay. I was bugged out.
Ever after me, that's who it is.
Yeah, too bad. His loss.
3054.
Yo! Yes.
What is this? Damn.
3054.
That'd be looking good. September 1st is the next
First
meeting.
Saturday of next month.
September 1st.
Right here.
September 1st.
There we go.
God, it's September already. Thank you for coming. What's that?
Sure enough, follows up.
Sure it is.